Imagine the year 117 AD. Rome is at its absolute peak. 6 million square kilometers, 400,000 elite legionaries. A war machine that hasn't met an equal in centuries. Now, drop a single US Army Stryker Brigade into the heart of the Italian peninsula. At first glance, it's a joke. Rome has the bodies. Rome has the land. Rome has the time. But Rome is a house of cards, held together by wooden wheels and horse-speed communication. Because a 21st century army doesn't just fight soldiers, it fights infrastructure. What happens when the eternal city meets a hellfire missile? Can a civilization built on stone survive a war fought at the speed of sound? It's not just a battle. It's the death of an era. The year is 117 AD. The Mediterranean is a Roman lake. But overnight, the geography of power shifts. A US Army Stryker Brigade Combat Team is deployed into the Po Valley. The Romans see it first as a celestial omen. Thousands of lights in the sky, the roar of engines, and iron chariots that move without horses. To the US Army, the mission is simple: neutralize the Roman war machine and occupy the capital. This is the ultimate breakdown of the macro scale, comparing entire systems, not just soldiers. Manpower: 30 legions spread across the world, masters of endurance and long campaigns. The logistics: stone roads and relay systems where information travels slowly. The defense: massive fortifications and fleets controlling trade routes. The mindset: Rome believes it cannot fall. The Stryker Brigade: fast, coordinated, and lethal. They move at high speed across Roman roads, reaching strategic targets within days. Through drones and digital systems, they see the battlefield in real time. The teeth: M1128 mobile gun systems, 105mm cannons, Javelin anti-tank missiles, and the M777 howitzer, capable of striking targets from 18 miles away. The weakness: the fuel ticking clock. The brigade depends on JP-8 fuel and high-tech parts, while Rome has endless grain. The US brigade avoids direct engagement and instead initiates network-centric warfare. Drones circle Roman camps, identifying commanders and key infrastructure. Before any direct contact, long-range artillery begins its strike. Explosions rip through Roman headquarters and supply depots, destroying command and logistics. The Romans are thrown into chaos as invisible forces dismantle their command structure. Communication collapses within hours. A Roman legion marches north to investigate, 5,000 strong in perfect formation. They hear a distant mechanical hum before spotting armored vehicles on the horizon. The Roman commander orders a defensive formation, shields locked, spears ready. The strikers continue advancing without slowing, weapon systems engaging. Heavy machine gun fire begins tearing through the Roman ranks from long range. The Romans attempt to respond, but cannot reach the distant vehicles. The engagement becomes a one-sided destruction rather than a battle. Rome responds by adapting, pulling forces back and initiating scorched earth tactics. Wells are poisoned, supplies destroyed, and infrastructure dismantled to deny resources. The US brigade pushes deeper into hostile territory, supply lines stretching thin. Roman forces begin asymmetric tactics, digging traps and blocking roads. The Roman roads become a maze of obstacles, slowing the modern advance. The war shifts from open dominance to a grinding campaign of attrition. The gates of Rome now loom as the final objective in a war no one understands. By day 4, the US brigade is at the walls of Rome. The eternal city is defended by 50,000 soldiers and 1 million terrified citizens. The US commander observes the city through thermal optics.
He has the firepower to destroy it, but fuel is critically low and troops are exhausted. In the distance, Roman legions form for a final stand, no longer afraid after seeing modern weaknesses. They realize that if they can hold long enough, the modern force will collapse without fuel. The stage is set for the greatest siege in history. The U.S. commander orders an immediate, high-intensity breach to conserve fuel and end the siege quickly. At 0300 hours, M777 artillery begins firing precision strikes on the gates. The Porta Appia gate is destroyed within seconds, the explosion echoing like the sky tearing apart. M1128 mobile gun systems move forward, firing into Roman towers and collapsing defensive structures. The walls of Rome begin to crumble under modern firepower. Stryker units push through the breach into the city's narrow streets. The urban environment restricts movement and visibility for armored vehicles. Roman defenders launch attacks from above using fire and improvised weapons. A Stryker is engulfed in flames, forcing infantry to dismount. U.S. infantry enters Roman buildings, engaging in close-quarters combat. Inside, Roman soldiers ambush from shadows, turning the fight into brutal close combat. U.S. soldiers respond with controlled bursts, but are overwhelmed by numbers in confined spaces. The battle shifts toward the Palatine Hill, where Roman forces make their final stand. Roman soldiers swarm Strykers from rooftops, attempting to disable them manually. The battle becomes chaotic, with intense close-range fighting across the marble streets of Rome. Trajan himself appears on the balcony of the imperial palace. He doesn't look like a defeated man. He looks like a strategist who has found a flaw. He realizes the U.S. soldiers are distracted by the urban fight and signals the Roman navy to block the Tiber River by sinking their own ships. Then, he unleashes the elephants. 20 war elephants charge down the Via Sacra, towering over the battlefield. A javelin missile strikes the lead elephant, triggering a catastrophic explosion. The explosion triggers a stampede, with remaining elephants trampling both Roman and U.S. forces in chaos. The U.S. commander checks his HUD. Fuel critically low, ammunition dwindling.
The brigade holds the forum, but the city continues to resist violently. Every time a U.S. soldier reloads, Roman fighters surge forward to fill the gap. Reports come in. Multiple Roman legions are converging, threatening to encircle the brigade. The realization sets in. Capturing Rome is easy. Surviving it is not. By day 6, the U.S. flag flies over the ruins of the Roman Senate, but morale is grim inside the command center. The Strykers are now stationary defensive positions, conserving fuel and power. The artillery is silent, not by choice, but because ammunition is depleted. The brigade has stopped moving, and in modern warfare, that is fatal. Trajan escapes and sends a brutal message to the U.S. forces. The message is clear. The U.S. holds the city, but they are trapped inside it. Rome begins constructing a circumvallation wall using rubble and civilian labor. The U.S. brigade becomes the besieged force inside the city they conquered. The war has reversed. The conquerors are now the trapped. The shock comes when a U.S. patrol at Porta Salaria is attacked with improvised Roman weapons built from salvaged modern equipment. Roman engineers begin repurposing unexploded ordnance and damaged vehicles into primitive explosive devices. A Roman testudo advances carrying a crude explosive device instead of traditional weapons. The explosion devastates part of the forum, proving Rome has adapted to modern warfare. The U.S. commander realizes the moral situation is collapsing as civilians begin to suffer from starvation and chaos. Trajan manipulates the situation,
destroying resources and blaming the U.S. forces, turning the population against them. The U.S. soldiers begin to hesitate as they face desperate civilians being pushed forward by Roman forces. Some U.S. contractors secretly defect, trading knowledge of weapons and technology to survive. Roman engineers begin understanding gunpowder and modern mechanics. The timeline fracture deepens as Rome begins to absorb modern knowledge. U.S. forces observe Roman soldiers carrying primitive firearms built from salvaged technology. The U.S. commander realizes even victory will create a far more dangerous Rome. With fuel nearly gone and enemies adapting, negotiations begin between the U.S. commander and Trajan. The U.S. brigade integrates into Roman society, transforming the empire into an advanced industrial power centuries ahead of time.